what do we announce really?
In fact, I just discovered in the agenda that there is a panel, and my name is there, but I have no information on the content of the panel and who will attend the panel.
I think all the people are sleeping already.
Kalin, are you sleeping?
Are attending the panel, and we will just talk about VR and storytelling.
Kalin?
Okay. I'm supposed to be there or not?
Yes, if you can be, please.
Shall we go somewhere else to test the audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where? Outside?
Okay, I will be there.
Okay, thank you. Then looking forward to see the presentation. Oh yes.
So you will start with the presentation?
Oui.
Yes, I will. I will start. James,
Yes.
shall I open the session?
Yes. Can you just let me give the information about, as we said, the general organization and so on, very quickly, and I give you the hand, if you don't mind.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, hi everybody. As we heard, you all heard, I'm James Opisa, the CEO of Massive Immersive. We'll be in charge of the moderation of this hall. Just to remind you, the good practices that we have not been following before is to keep your mic muted and during the lectures and the speakers. In the end of each presentation, we're able to ask your question directly to the speakers. So today our host and the person in charge of all the conferences is Benjamin de WITT, and let him make the presentation, introduction of all the conference, and enjoy all the conferences.
Hey. Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin de WITT. You can see it right above my head. I am very happy to be here with you and waving at you. Well, I'm hosting this first session for me, a first session in hosting a first session. Well, in Virbella. Last night it was the awards. It was a little bit different. I had a lot of fun there. I hope some of you were there as well. But today we're going to talk about content creation and storytelling in VR and AR. And to me, this is a topic that's very close to my heart. When I started working in VR, I think 6-7 years ago, it was because I was so struck with my first VR experience that from that moment on, this was something I wanted to be a part of. And I just dropped everything and started doing things with and in virtual reality. And I ended up organizing the VR Days Europe, which is about well, the developments of virtual and augmented reality in science and art. Myself, was trained as an actor. I worked on in theater for 6-7 years, and even now. Now and then, I still get a small acting job, which I thoroughly enjoy. I think, in this time of social distancing, it's, we're even looking more for shared immersive experiences and immersive technologies like an immersive theater play. Yeah, it makes our body become part of the story, and also we connect in different ways to each other. Like I am now connecting to you, and knowing you're there and seeing your avatars. It gives us a sense of belonging, you know, of being. And obviously, there's lots of ways to improve this, and I think this is a great experience, an experiment to be part of. Now, we have a couple of great speakers here, who will explore different kinds of VR and storytelling and means and techniques to enhance our experience in the virtual space. We will have 4 talks, and after the 4 talks, we hope to have a panel with the speakers. You will be, if you have any questions, please write them down or let us know of it. After each talk will be a couple of minutes of Q&A. Just raise your hand if you want a question, ask a question then. So, to start with the first presentation, it is from Valérie ALLIE of INTERDIGITAL, and she will talk with us about volumetric video. And, well, I want to welcome on stage Valérie, and please enlighten us with your stories. Now give a warm round of applause for Valérie while she enters our stage. That's Shift F4, people. Come on, give it to me. Shift F4 for Valérie. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm just trying to make the connection.
Yes, and Valérie, if you could go to the middle of the stage so people can see you well.
Yeah. I will do it as soon as it's okay with the connection. Arrange that. Oh? Tu sais, le copier-coller sur l'écran. I have an issue with putting the proper link. Works well just before. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
There's someone from the moderator, from the technical staff.
Yes, let's go. I will call for
Yes,
James.
it's Tristan who is just writing to you directly in your private chat.
Tristan, you have Valérie's presentation on the shared file.
Yeah, but let's try again. All I have is the copy paste of the link. Otherwise, it's okay. But in the presentation tool, the paste, just the copy paste, does not work. Yeah, issue with the keyboard. Seems that
if it isn't working, you can maybe reboot Virtual World. It will work.
No? You want me to do?
Vous pouvez redémarrer le Laval Virtual World. En général, ça fonctionne le copie.
Ah, carrément? D'accord.
Non.
Sinon, je fais votre. Normalement, je peux mettre votre présentation. Ok.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this technical hiccup. I will shortly discuss with James how to proceed. Give me 1 second. Dear James.
1 sec, yeah. Yes, Benjamin.
Yes, I don't see Valérie anymore on stage. Shall we just move ahead with Laurent and see if we can have Valérie after?
I think not, because if we start the next conference and people miss it.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yes, she's back. You see.
Okay.
I try to be back. As been asked, I reboot everything. So I'm going to check whether I can this time to work now. So I guess now you see. Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry for that. That's blocked, but it's okay. I guess you see the presentation now. So let's start.
Perfect.
You
Well,
see it's in full screen, so that's okay.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Valérie ALLIE.
Yeah. So, hi everybody, I'm Valérie ALLIE. I'm part of INTERDIGITAL Research and Innovation Group. So I'm just going to introduce you quickly the company. So we are a research, innovation and licensing company. We worked on wireless technologies for over 4 decades, and now we expand our activity to consumer electronics with research in video and AI topics. So this group is R&D labs providing strong contributions to international standards and industry activities through customer partnerships. And we develop solutions leveraging our research in edge computing, immersive video, synthetic content. And as you see, our main topics today are 5G, video technologies, and IoT. We have acquired last year the research innovation organization from Technicolor. So this helps INTERDIGITAL to become a key player in video compression, light field immersive technologies, and VR and AR production technologies. So as a research and innovation group, we have 4 labs. Wireless networking lab, image science lab, immersive lab, and artificial intelligence lab. I'm part of the immersive lab. Inside the immersive lab, our goal is to develop core technologies to create new immersive experiences. And for that, we are organized in 4 key research areas around virtual production, where we develop technologies for VFX, gaming, and real-time rendering. We develop technologies for mixed reality, and you will have sessions tomorrow morning related to our work on mixed reality. We have a group working on volumetric imaging, and that will be one of the topics today. And we have a group working on deep content for generation of synthetic content. So the topic today is volumetric video. I'm going to try to have some videos. I hope it will work. Otherwise, I will jump to the presentation with just images. So what is volumetric video? Volumetric video is for us the next generation of video, where the user will have the cessation of depth and parallax. Do you see some? Yes, I think it's moving a little. I think it's slow, but you have the video. The idea here is to allow the user, yes, to have this sensation of depth and parallax, and to have a better immersion into the content. And when we talk about this movement, the capability for the user to have natural movements, as you see in the deck. So we talk about degree of freedom when we talk about volumetric video and immersive content. And we try to be pragmatic in INTERDIGITAL and try to go step by steps, allowing at least a slight movement of the user, and already with the slight movement, if the user is able to get this sensation of depth and parallax, it helps to create a new experience. So let's go through different experiences and use cases where finally you need to have this type of content. So first, when we talk about VR, so for VR, it's clear that it's mandatory. In a content up to 360 content, the user is fully immersed. So naturally, he will move, as you can see the user there in the corner. Naturally, the user inside the VR content will have some movements. So you can imagine a full degree of freedom, but even without that full degree of freedom, in content, even in CG contents, the displacement is limited for the user. But inside this displacement, he will have some natural movements. And for that, you need to have this parallax effect. With CG contents, you have this effect, so it seems normal. But as soon as you move to real content, to natural content, today it's not the case. So it's a bit weird because there is something which is missing and bringing discomfort. So if you want to have real video inside a VR headset, you need to have this volumetric video. What we experience also is on TV sets. In fact, what we show last month is that if you propose the user to watch a volumetric video, even on a 2D screen, and as you see here on the screen, the main user is tracked by the TV set. And during that, you can see the video, and based on your slight movements, yes, you can zoom in, you can move around, for instance, here the pillar. And so you're watching a video as you would have looked the real world in front of a window. That's why we call it a dynamic window experience. And what we see is that for the user, yes, it's bring a kind of wow effects, and it's really changed the perception of the content. And if we talk about TV screen and broadcast content, yes, perhaps you don't need to have volumetric video for the whole duration of the content, but perhaps you want to have that on key moments. And as you see here, you could have, let's say, a kind of key moments, stop and replay, and be able, at the moment of the replay, let the user to turn around the action. So this can be considered for broadcast live events, sports event, while during the full event, let's say it's maybe a simple 2D streaming, but at a key moment, at a key position inside the stage, inside the show, you could want to let the user to play a little bit with the content, to be more immersed. So that would help also to change the experience for the user. And again, even on any screen, let's say. We have shown also that this volumetric experience is interesting also on a 2D screen like smartphone. So that will scale the capability to deploy this kind of content. The idea is that we have the idea is that we are able, even on a small screen, to have this sensation of depth and really change the perceptions. And you start to have that with your phones due to the different sensors you have on the phone, and you have a depth sensor on the phone. So you start to have a kind of background, foreground that already brings you something. The fact that you have it also with video will change also this perception. And this will help to deploy this kind of content at a larger scale. I hope you see a little bit the videos, but it seems that it's a bit slow, but at least you will have that in our website later. Regarding AR experiences, here again, volumetric video is mandatory for AR experiences, because for AR experiences, for mixed realities, you want a seamless blending with reality. You want real-time natural interaction. And for that, you need to have, if you want to insert again real video, you need to have volumetric video for that. So that's here a mandatory use case. So what are the different technical challenges we face with this type of content? First is about how to create this type of content. And the idea of what we develop here in INTERDIGITAL is to develop volumetric video. So really have that create kind of video stream, new video formats. So we want to see how to generate this type of video and be able to manipulate CG content, but also 3D models, but also manipulate real video. So for real video capture, we have to consider, yes, to adapt the capture setup to the degree of freedom of the experience. What is clear from what we have seen before is that based on the way you want to deploy your content, where you want the user to experiment your content, you will have to adapt the capture setups. If the content will be at the end viewed on a 2D screen, you don't need to have a so complex capture rig. If you want to have a full 6DoF experience in a VR headset, that's something different. You will have to have a more complex capture setups. If you want to just integrate an object, a volumetric object, there is another capture setup. So that's also important. And to see that perhaps we can have already a volumetric effects and experience with kind of pragmatic capture setup or light capture setup. For real video content, we need light field camera arrays in order to capture full scenes. So we have in the state of the art in the ecosystem today, you have different solutions that exist. Inside INTERDIGITAL, we have a full pipeline for real-time light field capture and processing to create this kind of content with parallax. Here you see on the screen content from a small rig where you already start to have parallax. And we are working on a new capture rig with a much larger baseline to capture a whole scene, not only an object, capture a whole scene and be able to have this capability to move inside the scene. So that's the degree of the size of the rig and the baseline of the rig will help to define the movements, the range of movements of the user at the end. So that's something important to make this capture of real video content. Then you can also exploit all the content that you can generate with computer graphics, with 3D models. And the idea here is that from a 3D scene, as you see in the video, from a 3D scene, you can define a virtual rig and capture a volumetric video content. So for us, volumetric video content basically is multi-view plus depth information. So inside a 3D model, inside a let's say perhaps game engine or game content, you can insert a virtual rig and extract this volumetric video. So for that, you will create a new content out of that and be able to deploy and distribute this content as a video file with a video player. That also can help to distribute this type of content to help the user to discover this type of content, to have an interaction with this content, to be immersed in this content, and without the need of having the full game engine running on your device. That's help also to create this content, and you will see that on our example, we use this technique to generate content. Then on the ecosystem, we need to have editing and compositing tools. And perhaps that's in the full chain, that's the point where we need to have further developments to be really able to integrate those volumetric video, real video inside editing tools in order to put VFX, in order to be able to make composition with different capture setup, in order to mix light field capture, non-light field capture, to address large field of view content. So this is a point where we need to develop more to get this kind of tools available on the market. So this is for creation, and that's the first thing. Then one of the key challenges is the distribution. How do we want and how can we distribute this kind of content? Because if we looked at the creation step, we mentioned camera arrays. You see that you can have, let's call them pragmatic, but even pragmatic array are a set of video inputs. And if we consider 4K inputs at each time, it starts to be a heavy content. And if you consider more complex rigs, you will have data to transmit. So distribution is really important. And the idea is to find solutions to distribute them in a pragmatic way again, and in order to sustain and to be able to deliver them, and to be able also to decode and be able to render them in real time on a lightweight device. So for that, inside INTERDIGITAL, we are involved in MPEG standardization for volumetric video content. So for that, there are several tracks inside MPEG addressing volumetric video with different type of content manipulated and different solutions for transmitting this type of content and new data formats for video compression and distribution. One of them is called the metadata for immersive video format. And the objective of this track is to deliver and transmit volumetric video scene based on multi-view plus depth content. So out of a camera rig, from a real content or computer-generated content, as we have seen, we can consider scenes, flat scene 2D scenes, but up to 180 degrees or 360 degrees for VR content. And the idea is, we look at what we had before. The idea is to be able to transmit that in a pragmatic way. So out of a set of multi-view information, the idea is to be able to transmit that in a lightweight form. Here it will be just 3 texture plus depth and metadata streams. And what you see here in the small animation is that we try to compute that, not delivering the full streams in parallel, but creating a stream based on a central view and some patch atlases that helps to recover all the volumetric information. So this is something that is currently developed within MPEG, and the standardization process is moving forward. Another track inside MPEG is about point cloud compression, because yes, when we talk about volumetric video, we have lots of content that we are manipulating, and for different use cases, for AR, as you have seen before, you have this kind of data format that you need to transmit. Here again, if you want to have high quality, you have high bit rates. And there is another track called video point cloud compression also, which is inside this MPEG track, and which will deliver solutions, again, to have something efficient in terms of compression, and that will help also to have a real-time decoder at the end user device. So that's an important point. The last point is about rendering. So at the rendering side, what we need is that we need to have a view interpolation, because at the end, the real-time rendering will have to adapt to the exact position of the user inside the content. So there is a key technology brick, which is an important point because it's the final assessment point for the user, is the final rendering, which has to be smooth and which has to deliver all the intermediate position, all the virtual views out of the content that has been transmitted, as we have seen just before. So that's a key brick also in the technology challenges we have to face. So here it was, the idea was just to show you what we intended to show during the Laval virtual conference. We were supposed to demonstrate a showroom with volumetric video experiences, and we wanted to demonstrate different experiences of video, volumetric video content on VR headsets with a showroom here that's inside which you can enter and inside which you can just go and find the different contents we have. And as we see that when we acquire content with a small rig, it's not a 360 video. So we just figure out that with a kind of dynamic window, a virtual dynamic window. So this was here a kind of showroom to discover our content. We intended to show that also on new early stage devices. So for that, we developed the interface and the rendering for 3D videos, screens where we can show 3D and parallax content and see how it can bring the new experience. How we are working with early stage devices like the Looking Glass ones, which provides horizontal parallax. So here what you have is it's real multi-user experience with parallax. The video here is a bit not clear, but at least we could be able to showcase how our content can be exploited in this early stage light field content. So what's next out of that? We have seen that there are the potential of volumetric video, and we think that it's the next generation. For that, we need to find and create the proper content where the core, the video, volumetric video is important and mandatory. We have to develop those in that editing tools. In the scientific community, there is a huge track on AI-based solutions for all this type of content processing change, and especially on the rendering side. And this will help also to unlock rendering technologies. And as you see, we need those video formats and distribution solutions that we need to adapt to the different use cases and the different paths to market and the different final devices where you want to deploy your content. So that's all for today. Thanks for listening. So you have here a link. I'm sorry, but I'm sure the videos were not properly running. So you have on our INTERDIGITAL site all those videos so that you can go and see them more friendly.
Well, thank you, Valérie, for this really amazing and very interesting presentation. May I ask you a couple of questions? Valérie, do you hear me?
Yes, 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 I hear you.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Oops.
I would. Oops.
Sorry.
I would like. Well, we just do it right like this. Oh, okay. I want to see you. Where are you?
I just
yes. Okay, yes. Valérie, like I said, I thought it was really interesting, a great presentation. Question I have is, where do you see your biggest market coming up in the next couple of years?
I think we have what we see is that AR will be mandatory for. We need this kind of content. I think that's the market for live events is also interesting. As we see, we can have volumetric video on any screen, and smartphones are good ones. For AR or even for viewing any type of content. So that's something that can help. Another type of content is about gaming, how to distribute all videos associated to gaming that could help to really exchange more immersive content that could be also an interesting path to market today.
Okay. Hey, and I also noticed that you said you need a lot of content, or you need great content. Now, this is also a session about content creation, and we probably have some content creators here in the space. How can how can content creators collaborate with you? What are you looking for?
In fact, we can collaborate with them. We have, let's say, as we said, we have a pipeline for capturing content. It's more, let's say, it's more for prototyping and seeing how we can create this kind of content. I think we can have partnerships with camera array providers. We can have partnerships also with editing tools, because I think that we have solutions to make the acquisition, and we are not alone having this type of solutions. So we can work jointly with this type of stakeholders. We need to work on new editing tools, because our point is that when we try to work with creatives, perhaps the pain point is around the editing tool in order to be able to make some post-production on the content. That's something where we need to still work on. And out of that, then once the content is created, as we said, with the new delivery formats that are coming, it will really bring solutions to distribute. And that was something we didn't have before. So we were a bit blocked. Now we have solutions, and we see solutions in the market. So that's also a way we can collaborate with creatives.
Okay, and so then what's a bit of your time frame for coming to market? Because it sounds like it's also in development stage at this moment, although you're very, very far.
Yeah.
You're also holding back a bit. When do you think it's the time to really push forward and start collaborating with creators?
We can start collaborating with that. You know, the delivery standards is something that should be ready depending on the different tracks, some this year or next year. Then there will be the deployment phase, which is much more important. So in less than 5 years, we should have that. And I think that we have the ability to start to explore how we can do that. And we are able also, yes, to integrate in some tools today to try to see how to deploy that.
All right. Hey, I have a couple questions from the audience. You can put it in the public chat, then I will ask these questions. So we have here from David Mercado asking, where can I get more information about these parallax windows you showed?
Yes, and I see in the public track that someone put the link on our website. So you have information there. Yes, you can get back to this type of deck, and you will be able to view that, and then feel free to contact us. We will be happy to discuss with you.
Okay. Hey, and another question, and then I think we have to move forward. What formats are coming? I heard of GPCD and VPCC. Is there anything else? This is a question from Alexis Delforge.
Yes, so I just see, so VPCC is video point cloud compression track. GPCC is for graphics. It's more targeting point cloud issues from LiDAR content for automotive markets. So there are different type of content that the MPEG standard is addressing. And that's why we have different tracks, and we are all involved in those tracks inside INTERDIGITAL. So the intent is to be able, again, to provide solutions for different type of content to distribute for different use cases. that are not the same, that are not manipulating the same type of data with the same use case behind.
Okay, then my last question, and then we will go forward to the next presentation, is also referring to a question I see in the chat. There's other institutes and companies in this field, Intel, there's TNO, Fraunhofer Institute is very strong on the volumetric capture. Is there a collaborative force together? Do you work together, or is it better to say that it's a sort of race who gets there first?
No, it's more collaborative efforts. There are some different collaborative projects and partnerships. And inside, for instance, for all the distribution format, for instance, it's clearly collaborative. You mentioned some companies like Intel and others. We are working with them inside this standardization efforts in order to bring joint solutions to really allow the deployment of this type of content. And yes, you mentioned Fraunhofer. For all the content creation side, it's more collaborative. What we need to have is to have an ecosystem with different stakeholders being able to create this type of content and creating together some tools in order to manipulate that. Our goal is really to make this type of content being created and distributed.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Valérie. Thank you very much. It was a great talk, and I learned a lot today. I really like that. It seems you really have a wonderful full product, and we would really like to hear more of it in the next couple of years. So thank you again, and goodbye for now. See you later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, next on stage, I would like to call Laurent LESCOP of ENSA or ENSA Nantes, a college here in France. And Laurent has been working for more than 20 years with VR. He has built realistic sets to make VR productions. He's really a one of a kind, a crack in the field with loads of experience around architecture but also content creation and storytelling. Laurent, I'm very happy that you can be with us today. Please take the stage and let us give a warm round of applause to Laurent. F4, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I will start. I hope the presentation is well seen. Because I had some issues with the HDMI cable and the sound. It seems I had a problem yesterday with that. Okay, so I just want to present myself. I am a professor in the Superior School of Architecture in Nantes, and we are working VR since indeed 20 years. And I will start from a project that we've done last year that is called Take Me to the Moon. And I will start from this project to talk about several things about virtual reality and mainly storytelling in virtual reality. We've made this film in 2018 with Marc Caro, a French director, and I think you know he has made several years ago films such as Delicatessen and the City of Lost Children, and so it's quite skilled and is mainly known with his partner Jeunet, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, maybe you know, with Amelia. So Caro Jeunet is a couples, and so we worked with him to create a pilot for a new series that would be shown in 3 360 virtual reality. And the specific of this film is that it's done with a real set. So not many examples of creating a real set for virtual reality, and I think it's one of the kind. Benjamin was very kind to remind me that there is another example which is called Ashes to Ashes, but it's very rare, in fact, to have real sets for virtual reality. Usually it's totally virtual, or it is filmed on real locations. And for this film, the set has been done with my students, my master students in the School of Architecture. The plot of the film is a spaceship trying to cruise to the moon, and a very funny space crew where you've got three characters: a loony professor, a robot, and a young space pilot, which is a very active girl. So the first question is, why VR in School of Architecture? It seems to be obvious, but in fact there are not so much examples of VR produced in schools of architecture. And it's true, we started years ago with VRML, and it was kind of difficult to convince students to use those tools. They were, you do remember that 20 years ago it was not that good. And but we also try to make some new devices, and one of my research topic is about immersive devices. And you've got the one of the first that we've done. It was in 2012, sorry, and it was called Nexus. It was a 220 immersive device in which you can enter, and we did a lot of films and created a lot of content for this device, and it was interesting for us to see that my image is blinking. I don't know if it's the same for you. It was interesting to see that to make a content for those panoramas, you've got several choices, like having 0 vanishing point or 1 vanishing point where you've got to stare in one direction, or 4 vanishing point where you can look around without any deformation. So in terms of building an image, it was very interesting to use this device to test all of that. And then we went into immersion and interaction when Unity and Unreal were out, and it made a very big change. As I told you, that we were starting with VRML, and it was quite difficult at that time for the students, but with Unity and with Unreal, it really changed the game for the good of everyone. Then we've made several content, and one of these had a very specific life. It was a diploma from one of my students, and the idea was to invent a kind of virtual travel around the world to discover cave paintings, and so the idea was to how can we deal with inside and outside, and how can we travel around the world to open spaces and even into caves. So the student invented this device, which is a kind of train, and it has been tested and built in Los Angeles 2 years ago. And we have this device where you are inside the train and you've got the landscape all around, and it really works. I mean, the main question of 360 videos and 360 content is, for me, really the device, and I will go back on it later. So you can see the mock-up of this train, and we had screens all around, and we really had the feeling of being traveling around the world. So this question of building something is really important for us. We did a lot of digital content, but since a few years we thought that now it's time to build for real and put real things into VR. But the question is to have also the control, and we've got lots of issues about shooting in real locations. So to have the control, we can be like in a studio, cinema studio, and for that, building is the best we can do. The quality you can get with a real building in terms of image is very sensational. You can really use all cinema techniques to enhance the visual effect that you want to get from a specific space. We started with scale models, and you can see that all those models are very much accurate, and they're very much precise in detail. Those models are 1 to 10. It means that they are quite big, but also the quality into the materials, the objects, all details, everything is perfectly set. And then we used them to test with like a Ricoh Theta camera that we were able to put inside the model to test already the effect in terms of virtual experience. And this is very interesting to already have the result of the content. The key issue was to if we would have the same picture in the scale model with this kind of camera, and then in the real set with a professional camera. The question was really to know if we would have really the same sensation of space, the same sensation of scale also. And to my surprise, it was very close, and we didn't have so much difference that we could say it's not possible to use such cameras to test a scale model. We also built, of course, 3D models of the set. Also to build, so everything has been cut with digital techniques and CNCs and so on, and of course also by hand. And the digital model was also used to make some tests, some virtual reality, as we can easily do with now lots of softwares, and also to test if we can have the same sensation of scale, of space. And I think it's really a topic that we should carry on to work on, the continuity and maybe the ability to have a VR process to test or to create or to design VR content. It's quite the box in the box and in the box as well. So you can see in the studio with the students where we were working, designing, drawing, building, and so on. And Marc Caro, the director, is testing with a single telephone and Google Cardboard, trying to see if it's correct or not. And we've got a huge workshop at school, so it's easy to build things. And you can see on the pictures below that it's a really huge set. And one of the key issues also was to know exactly how big can be the set without having too bad image. One of the very, very complicated things is the selling. I mean, in cinema, usually, in cinema studios, usually they don't build the setting because it's allowed to put the lights and to create ambiances and to have lots of possibilities to go from the top. And in the Ashes to Ashes example, they didn't build a ceiling as well because they know that it's so complicated, but we did. And it made things so much harder that you cannot imagine how hard it was to have this thing being built, put on, and then trying to put the light afterwards and so on. So really to have an enclosed space, a really enclosed space, and to shoot in it, it was our challenge, and it made things very difficult. We tried as far as possible not to use any digital effects afterwards to complete the set or to enhance the effect. We just wanted to make it as live as possible, and so it wasn't that easy. In the end, you've got some results over there. You can see that everything is very much detailed. Everything is painting is done by the student. They learn to paint the right way for cinema. So what you think or what could appear to be metal, in fact, it's not. It's really only painting. It's not wood. It's just cardboard, and so on. So everything is fake, but everything looks really real, and it has life. I mean, it's lively. There's a very strong presence. The main question about using a real set in VR is then acting and staging and telling the story from that. And Benjamin told me that he is an actor, and I think he knows about this kind of things. Acting in VR is really not acting in cinema. We had famous actors to play in that film, and some were coming from television and cinema, some were coming from theater. And those from theater, for those from theater, it was quite easy to find the way to play into this set. But the one from television, for him, it was quite difficult. He was looking for the camera, saying, "Where's my best profile? Where's the camera? Where do I shall stand to have a better image of myself?" And we had to say, okay, the camera is everywhere and it shows everything else. So don't care about the camera. But also, you know, there is this narrative grammar in cinema that we shall use also, like close-ups and so on. So we had to explain that to do a close-up, you've got to go to the camera, and then if you want a wide shot, then you've got to be away from the camera. And so it's really like theater, but for people from television and cinema, it was a kind of challenge to learn how to act in, and even for Macau, who's I mean, traditional cinema director, it was kind of hard for him to learn how to direct from in VR as he was coming from cinema. So he had really to, it was very challenging for him. So everything has to be told before they rehearse in the set before shooting, and then when it's ready, everybody's out, and then we start shooting. So as everything has to be outside the stage, I mean, all technical aspects have to be outside the stage. It makes also something difficult about the control, the orders that you can give to actors, the pace, rhythm, and so on, and of course the control of the lights and so on. So it brings a very huge issue, which is the off-screen issue, how to deal with it. So very often we see, I can read that there is no off-screen in VR. Everything is seen, so you don't have anything out of the frame. But in fact, it's not really true. And so with this set, we experimented that it's possible to have off-screen, but it's not exactly the same off-screen that you can have on a regular television or cinema frame. In fact, the off-screen is in depth. It means that it's behind something. So we used it, and we've done some simulations, 3D simulations, to know exactly where we could hide some objects like lights or technical things that we could hide out of the view of the camera. And so we've made some obstacles. We've made also we put some elements to be able to hide then objects that they wouldn't be seen from the camera, even if it was shot in 360. And we also use that researches to see the issue of the definition of the image. As you know, in 360, so what is very close is very well defined, but as far as you go, you don't have very nice details. So we also try to calculate the right distance to have a good definition. And we've got in the picture right up some kind of tests which were made with Grasshopper to calculate the resolution of each patch in the set. It also brought us to calculate the ideal size of the set, and we saw that a circle of 3 meters diameter is okay to have a good definition, to see the actors correctly, and then away everything is too little, it's not very well defined, so it's like the area that we could use for the play. One important thing also for us is how do you get inside a virtual experience and how do you get outside of this kind of experience? Because in virtual reality, you can feel yourself a bit lonely and maybe observed by the others. And it's interesting for me in my research. I try to create links between ancient technologies that in fact are very close to what we do nowadays and what is happening now. And you know that the first virtual headsets have been invented now centuries ago, in the end of the 19th century. And two examples are the mutoscope or the kinetoscope. And you had, for those kind of devices, also a solitary virtual experience. And the images that you got from that time are very close to what we see today when you set up Samsung Gear, and then you're alone in your virtual space with other people that are also alone, and everybody is alone inside their virtual spaces. So we just ask ourselves, is it possible to choreograph or to scenograph those spaces to make those experiences more more control? I mean, to let people have not being scared of trying the headsets and so on. And we also went back in time. You can remember that the panoramas were very famous in the 19th century. It was the virtual experience at that time. And I really like to go back to that time to see what has been made. And for instance, in this one, you are in a boat set desk, and the boat is moving, and the public really had the sensation of being on the sea, witnesses a battle. And what is interesting with panoramas that they incorporate all new technologies that were invented in the 19th centuries, like photograph, electricity, and so on. They incorporate everything until this one, which was seen and shown in the Universal Exhibition in 1900 in Paris, when you've got this travel in a balloon, and so it's 1900. I mean, the cinema was just invented, and they created this virtual balloon, a virtual travel in a balloon with projectors set around the basket, and people had really the sensation of being lifted away and lifted up and traveling in the air. In fact, this device was a bit dangerous. It was very hot, and firemen had to close it because they were afraid of that everything would be set on fire in the future. What's interesting in panoramas, and if I just make the connection with the idea of setting a whole experience of virtual experience, is before being in a panorama to have this virtual image, there were a kind of entry that the spectator had to go through a dark corridor and then go on a stair, and then being, as they said at that time, enlightened. And it is very important because the process of the illusion of being inside, of being immersed, of being inside this virtual space is really given by what is given before. It means this dark corridor, the stair, and then the platform. And we know that because panoramas were set with a patent. It means that everything was written in terms of effect, desired effect, and so on. So we know for sure very exactly what they wanted to give as illusion.
Okay. Sorry, Laurent, to interrupt you, because we kind of running a little bit time about with the next lecture. Maybe I let Benjamin manage the end of, I don't know, you want to manage it?
Okay, I'm close to the end, so maybe I've just a few slides to go over. Shall I finish? I've got a few slides to...
Yes, please finish.
Okay. So that's also what we do now. So yeah, I'm really close to the end. So the next step, I think, is really what appeared this year of something that is going to very much change the game. It's the HTC Cosmos and mainly the Oculus Quest, which with you can walk around, and in fact you're not just prisoner of this sphere, virtual sphere inside you. You were not able to move. And so next year we will work on with this kind of headsets and try to invent new things, where so new virtual worlds in which you can walk around and transform things and so on. The last key issue of storytelling and creating content for VR is the point of view. And of course, the main question, which is pretty hard, and it's hard to see a lot of literature about this topic, is who do you embody when during this VR experience? And there are a few very interesting examples, like Nuts of Blindness, which is now a bit old, but still very interesting in terms of embodying somebody who is blind and to see or to perceive the world like a blind guy. And of course, Kani Arena from Yeritu, where you just leave the experience of a Mexican trying to cross the border. So this question of point of view, who do you embody, who you are into this virtual space is not obvious. It's quite a complicated question. And so I think it's very much linked also of the in and out, meaning who are you prepared to be to start a virtual experience? So in our film, we were somebody remote on Earth and just witnessing what was happening in the spaceship. And for the next project, we had a very new and very innovative solution, but I won't talk about it here. I will talk about it later. Okay, so I'm done. This is the last frame. I want to thank you all, and if there are some questions.
Thank you, Laurent. Crowd is excited. We were happy to hear you. Yeah, we have a great applause for you. Now, I would like to just keep the questions very short because of the time. But you know, when I was starting with VR 5-6 years ago, I also started with this 360 and acting around the camera and was really excited about it. However, if I look at the creative space at this moment, most experiences, prize-winning experiences like Gloomy Eyes, The Key, La Linea, it's all animated. Is there a future for 360 photoreal VR, or are we just experiencing a time frame where the interest is going down? What's your idea about that?
For me, what is interesting is now to merge different things, and that's what we were trying this year, trying to have a live actor into a scale model, into virtual reality, and maybe with avatars. And this is again the question of point of view. If you can involve the public, maybe the audience, to be inside the film, maybe it can change things. So, but you know, having real actors is always the best you can have. They know how to just transmit emotions. They know how to be into space. So having real actors, for me, it's really something that we've got to cherish. And then, you know, then the actor can be through an avatar or can be through different things. But with the quest and the ability to move into space, I would like to see what it's like to have real actors into space where I myself and an avatar, you know, those all mixed techniques. That's what I want to explore now.
Okay, and one question from the audience before we move on is the question if you're shooting volumetric or not.
Volumetric meaning in 3D?
Yeah, stereoscopic. I mean, sorry.
It has been shot in stereo. Then the post-production, we had a little of post-production behind, and it's true, it takes a lot of time to deal with the stereo, but it has been shot in 3D, in stereo 3D.
Okay. Well, thank you for this answer. Feel free to pick Laurent, to jump on him later on, to ask him all kinds of questions. He would be very happy to answer. Thank you again, Laurent. Now I want to, yes, we'd like to see that. Maybe before we go to the next speaker, I can do a little jump for you. I rehearsed this, 1, 2, 3. Yes, okay. Our next speaker, I would like to call on stage, Gabriella CHIHAN Stanley of VRish. I'm very happy to have her on stage. She is the co-founder of VRish and the founder of XR Vienna. Her talk is called "A City Be a Quiet Place, Ponder Alone."
Hello.
Gabriella, are you here? Where are you? Hey, you're behind me.
Yay,
Okay.
I'm behind you.
Hey. All right.
I sneaked up on you, huh?
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Like I am sharing the presentation right now. Just a small second. I take a bit a lot of time to do everything. Then I never forget anything, so that's good.
That's who you are. Okay, take the stage. We're looking forward to your presentation. I will ask you a couple of questions after, and enjoy their time here.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. May I ask you if you see my presentation, because I have no way of seeing it right now. Okay. So yes, hello everybody. You're all looking great today. It's so great to see some members of our XR community here in a different light. and also some of our colleagues from work. And this is such an exciting moment, and that our first fully virtual conference, and that's something to remember, right? And as Benjamin said, I'm Gabriella, Gabs for the friends, and this is Axel.
Hi, I'm Axel. Yeah. I think somewhere along the way it got lost that we're doing this presentation together. So, but no worries, I'm introducing myself.
We're doing it together. I mean, we are co-founders of VRish, our XR content production company. We are also married in real life, so we literally share everything. And it's very exciting to be here with all of you today. So let's jump to the topic. This was our day yesterday.
But actually, it was 2 days ago. But it's space time. Who cares?
Time is very relative nowadays. I mean, I guess you agree with this. So anyway, since the quarantine was announced, things have been happening so fast that saying that we see it flashing in front of our eyes feels like an understatement. From one day to another, we had to leave our office to ensure the financial stability of our team, because team always comes first. Started working from our 1-bedroom home and had to move all our equipment, as you see here, all in our tiny flat. So all this while having our lovely 3-year-old daughter ready to spend lots and lots of entertaining time with Mama and Papa for an indefinite period. So as you can imagine, our greatest current fantasy since COVID-19 started was to be a couch hero and make fluffy coffees while watching Netflix and chilling. But, you know, we don't close the possibility for the future. You know, we are taking it one day at a time. So in usual circumstances, when I feel overwhelmed, I will go for a walk outside to clear my mind. My personal favorite place to do so has always been churches or places of worship in general. Not because I desperately need to pray. God knows I'm still trying to define what I believe in. But because places of worship have always been one of the quietest places to ponder alone in the city. And maybe you notice, maybe not, I'm quite an introvert as well. So my introverted self is locked down in a flat with a small child and no chance for solitude or quiet. So yeah, it's a very interesting time. Then how can we find a moment of peace and quiet to take a break and do nothing but putting the mind at ease and being in the moment in the context of mandatory confinement? Considering that you're either sharing your place with someone right now or you're desperate for a change of scenery, that is. Sure, visiting new worlds and parallel dimensions in VR does the trick wonderfully. But wouldn't you agree that sometimes we crave for an air of familiarity to keep us grounded instead of a new place to discover? And just to go back to a place that we've been 1,000 times and discover something new and beautiful that we didn't see before and bring us to a new aha moment. It's just wonderful, right? And this is how Empty Vienna was born. In the context of COVID-19, these islands of peace were all around the city. But ironically, no one had access to them. Or at least they should know better than to try to have access to them, right? So this numinous, uncanny feeling that one can get at places of worship were now everywhere. We knew we needed to find a way to share this moment with others. But Axel and I both had a different approach to the same idea. I will share my point of view, my perspective of this concept. That was my idea of sharing this moment was that same as holy places, these quiet and empty streets and deserted landmarks reminded me of our own limitations as humans. Be humble, that we are not in control of everything. And if we just let time slow down sometimes and just get lost in small but very meaningful details, and we try to give new significance to usual places, that we start perceiving reality through new eyes. But I don't want to tell you too much about the experience. I just I will give you a bit of a spoiler that it begins with the 7 o'clock bells on Easter Monday. So every bell gets you deeper and deeper into the moment, and it's just such an eerie but wonderful feeling at the same time to be introduced deeper into a rabbit hole, and then in the end you are left to create the story as you go. But it's not all about me, of course. So Axel has a different approach that he would like to share with us, right?
Yeah. So this project, it was really kind of different from other things that we were doing the last year. So we were doing a lot of contract work, a lot of things that we had to stage. And in this project, I had the feeling that it was finally something that we can document again. And it is a very special moment in our city, in Vienna. So just for you to get some background, I'm a real Viennese person living in now back in Vienna, and I'm like, I don't know, one of three. So when you go to Vienna and you try to find a real Viennese people, you hardly find them. And so what I want to say with that is that I know the city from my childhood on as a place that was always filled, crowded with people like tourists, and who are of course coming to this beautiful city to see all the attractions and and look at that. But in the end, what you get as both as a tourist and as a Viennese person is like this kind of artificial environment, if you want to call it like this, that is kind of like you have this layer of other people on top of what the original thing is and was meant to be. And so I mean, I hope that we will never have to see a moment like this again because of, obviously all the pain that it causes. But on the other side, for me, it was very important to also capture this moment and this feeling in the best possible way. And yeah, this was really my approach. I did not really know what was going to expect us. What we knew is we were going to go to these places that are usually filled with tourists, usually have all this distraction from the actual thing, and try to capture it in a way and rediscover it really with like digging deeper, let's say, without having to do so much digging.
Right. So on that note, what effect would Empty Vienna have on viewers? That was a present question for both of us. Or what did we want to emphasize the most? Firstly, we wanted viewers to be able to take all the time they needed to discover details and simply be there. We worked really hard on a slow pace and didn't want to include too much action for this purpose. And yeah, this brings us to our second point, is the freedom of story. We wanted people to feel free to connect the dots as they went. Free of linear scripts, free of breadcrumbs of any sort. We wanted viewers to discover something new every time they went in and have a new interpretation of what they were seeing. And all this remaining silent and alone. We wanted to emphasize the power of silence, like how much silence can say.
Same time though, it was important for me to really take advantage of the medium 360 video and not create a scene that is completely without anything going on, because then you can just take a video that is going to tell the story better and let's say in a higher resolution. So it was important for us to find these mini stories going on. And boy, was I surprised when we ended up like first shot 7 o'clock in the morning at the Stephansplatz, the bells were ringing and you had all these mini stories going on. There was action, there was drama, there was comedy, all in this very short time that we actually had to film there. And yeah, I will leave it for you to discover these things. But yeah, I was really surprised what you can find, all the layers that you can find beneath the things that are usually going on in these places.
Yeah, right. And this is last but not least, we wanted people to listen to the new sounds of the city. It was wow. It was crazy to see how the birds were almost immediately taking over the city. not only with, well, I must say, not only with their sound, but with their actions. You will see what we're talking about once you watch the video. It's just a small teaser. Don't look down too much, or look down if you want to be surprised. And from another perspective, we also saw a big opportunity for virtual tourism. Since, as Axel mentioned, the context of an empty city center of Vienna was an impossible thought in previous contexts. Like, how many times have we craved for an authentic experience in which we can experience a city, like landmarks included, with no one around? No one to offer us any tours or noises of every sort creeping into our attention constantly, like taking away the beauty of the place we're standing on at that particular moment. And at this moment that the camera was out there filming, it was Vienna in its finest. It was buildings, sky, birds, and you. And just a fun game. Do you want to talk about this?
So yeah,
think you're not.
Sorry, I was writing many ones in the chat right now. So, so we had this fun idea that we can actually make this a bit of a participative experience for you guys. I'm going to share now the link in the chat with you, so you can actually look at the video. We have prepared these 3 things that we would like to ask you to find, and if you find it, maybe take a screenshot and share it with the email that I will also send you in a moment in the chat. And also there are many other things to discover, and so whoever feels like it, please take screenshots of these small things that you find. Tell us about it, or ask questions about it, and send it to us. And yeah, let's make this kind of like an interactive thing. So I'm going to post now the link to the video and also the email address that you can send your comments to.
And of course, it doesn't have to be now. I mean, what makes us really happy is that we talked about the experience with different people, with our colleagues, with our friends, with strangers, and everybody's telling us some crazy, amazing story about what they lived in a place that nothing happens. So we introduced the idea of, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Because there are things that we ourselves didn't find yet. So it became a bit of a game with this experience, and this is why we would like to involve as many people as possible, and we will be thrilled to hear from you, and also keep in touch, of course. And moving on, would you like to introduce us to this lovely topic? This is your field of expertise.
I'm back. Okay, what the text. So I know that some of you guys are super curious as well about the tech that we use. So I'm going to not bore you too much, but a little bit. So we use the Insta360 Titan. It's a camera that came out last year. It captures stereo 360 video. With 10-bit color depth, which was a huge help in capturing, like starting filming in dawn and throughout the day, to really preserve all the details that the city has to offer, be it in the darks, without keeping making it too flat, or without burning out the white parts. So and you had so much possibility in the post-production to play with the colors and give it really the look that you wanted. At the same time, we also captured with a Schoeps ORTF 3D microphone that Matthias was bringing to really. So it's a fantastic microphone that is really capturing all the dynamics that we had in the city. So talking about the church bells that were really loud next to the church, and then right when the last bell was ringing and sounding off, then you hear all these really small details of the birds running around, and you have all these details without having to do too much post-production or playing with the dynamics afterwards. So it was really a fantastic experience, and you can also just close your eyes and just listen to the sounds. It's really amazing what's happening there. And yeah, also when it comes to the team, so we had one producer that was making sure that we had all the licenses to film in the city, because a lot of things were actually closed and not allowed, people were not allowed in. So we did prepare that, of course. City of Vienna was very helpful with this initiative, so we were really happy about that. And then when it came to the production team itself, it was really just Matthias and me. We wanted to keep it very low profile, because we knew that with these two UFOs that we used for filming, we would get a lot of attention, and we wanted to have like a small team, the team as small as possible. So like this, we were able to move around quickly from one location to another and set it up really quickly. And yeah, and then we can talk about the edit. So in the end, when we were filming with the Titan, so there's one thing about the Titan that one has to know when you record audio as well. It has a fan that it needs to cool it down when it gets too hot. You get 7 minutes of filming before the fan activates automatically. So this is what we had, these shots of 7 minutes, which I was in the beginning a bit afraid that it wouldn't be enough to really get the right moments. In the end, we found so many mini stories and so many things going on. In the beginning, we tried to really concentrate more on this, like the emptiness of Vienna, and try to not have any people around to, I don't know, to get this kind of apocalyptic mood. But in the end, we decided really quickly that actually no, we don't want we don't want this to make this about an apocalypse. Actually, we wanted to make it about all the things that you usually don't see that are going on, but they're kind of hidden by, as I mentioned before, by this layer of other people around. And yeah, you can, in a way, you can really look a bit into the heart of Vienna when you look at certain scenes. Yeah, one small detail about the edit. So when we uploaded it to YouTube, I saw that the length of it was 7 minutes and 9 seconds, 7:09. So the geek in me, it made me look up this number. So I found out that 709 is the year that like officially the Gregorian calendar, our calendar, was put into action. It started counting there, and yeah, so it starts a new era. And I have the feeling that this whole thing that we're going through right now, it's also kind of a new era that is starting. And yeah, I don't know, I just felt like sharing this with you as well.
No, just be honest with us. I mean, are we really losing our minds for being locked in already, or this is something this is something in the mind of others as well, you know? Like, please give us some feedback. So yeah, on this beautiful note, now, what's something besides the context of Empty Vienna? What's something very exciting? Not only about this project in particular, but this whole moment, that this context that we're living in right now. For us, is that from this point onwards, there's a good chance that the way we live and work and interact with one another will fundamentally change. And yeah, both as society, as individuals. So we're going to discover new ways to connect with one another, our surroundings, and ourselves while being apart. And this is the most exciting news for us in this industry, right? So let's take this moment of transition, this moment of stillness, to get ready for what's to come. And let's listen to the silence and prepare ourselves for this new world that we're starting. And thank you so much for the honor of being our first audience in a virtual conference. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Yeah. And we would love to hear from you if we still have time, or I think we made it too quick. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. If we love you, thanks again. And if there's anything you wish to tell us after the presentation, we are here for you.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It was a great presentation. Very nice.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, I also have this when I walk through Amsterdam. you see the city in such a different state. It's so beautiful to have the city without the tourists. Although we're happy, we're very sad that this is all happening. At the same time, we should also be have our eyes open for the beauty it brings. So I was also wondering, are there any other international initiatives that you're aware of? Because this is a small time frame, a small window of opportunity where we can do this.
Absolutely. I mean, personally, I'm not aware of any international initiatives. I mean, we consider this project to be first step towards finding out what else we can do about it, because as you said, Benjamin, and as we talked about in our presentation, I mean, the opportunities for showing like to see reality through new eyes is very very interesting, in the ways we can connect with one another in this context as well. And we believe that there's a lot of initiatives that are going to be born at this particular moment of our lives, that are going to continue when the situation changes. And we should try to use this time to really work on these tools and yeah, create a new way to connect with one another. I hope I replied to your question.
I remember one initiative that we looked at, that we, in Barcelona, there was some documentary from Vice I saw. It was not 360 video or VR, but it was actually quite immersive as well, the way that they did it. And yeah, obviously Barcelona is a place that we lived, and it's very dear to us. They have been hit very hard. And I saw some very good documentary about this place as well, and something that is kind of different, that is not about now, but I see documentaries about places like what was the name? Hiroshima and places like this. So yeah, it's not completely, it's definitely not new what we're doing, but yeah, as you said, like this crisis, it gives us a specific opportunity to really capture this moment in time, and technology at the moment, it really gives us
Jay Bauman in the audience also suggests that maybe this is a great moment for other content creators to go around and create a library of these of our cities and our landmarks in these times.
Absolutely.
Would you see a role for yourself in that? Because I bet you are well connected in the whole content creation scene, and our world is not that big.
So our goal is, of course, to continue with the project and to keep this going. This was a first step, a pilot, let's call it, and yeah, we should definitely continue with this, and let's really get in touch with everybody who's interested in doing this kind of documentation, and yeah, let's maybe have a platform where we can all share this.
Absolutely. We love collaborating with people. I mean, like we thrive on collaboration. So whoever got inspired with us, or whoever believes that we can do great things together, please be in touch with us. We'll be really happy to hear from you.
Okay, well, so that was Jay Bauman, and he's all the way in the back there. Hi, Jay. Are you with the green shirt? Yes. Well, never mind. He's also asking, is this available in Oculus, in the Oculus store?
So for
not
now,
yet, no.
Not for, so, but you can still watch it on the Quest. Actually, that was the best way to watch it online, was the YouTube VR application. That's free on the Quest, and it really works very well there. Next step is to set it up on the Oculus store as well. So yeah.
Okay, is there any other question from the audience at this moment? I'm not seeing any, but then please, guys, stay on stage for just a second, because our next speaker, which would have been Judith OKONKWO, is unable to log on the Laval virtual world, unfortunately.
Okay.
So this, so we cannot have her presentation, and then I'd like to move on directly to the panel. So we have a panel with the speakers we had before, and we will give you the opportunity to, as an audience, to ask a couple of questions, and we will have another story about content creation, and the future. So if we can all maybe take a seat. Let me, you already have a seat.
We were so
Laurent,
tired of standing up, you know.
Yes. Let me see. Can I add a couple of chairs here? I think so. Let me see.
Oh, we can.
On stage.
No, you're making the all bigger. the chair,
Okay.
only the one that are just in front.
Wow, this is amazing.
We can also stand. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
I mean, where
We can stand up.
No, I just let me. So technical. Now let's see. It should be possible. Or maybe we then, like you said, we will just all stand. Let's find a good position. Maybe I will be here, so I can. Oops! Look at you. Maybe you can come a little bit more to the front of the stage.
There?
Yeah, more front. People want to see you. Excited you're all
Stage dive! Follow me!
Thank you, audience. Yes, you're such a kind audience. So yes, we've had Valérie ALLIE of INTERDIGITAL. We have Laurent LESCOP of ENSA NANTES, and Gabriella and Axel of VRish. So what you're all working with is capturing real life capture. So filming and capturing. And I asked a question earlier to Laurent when I said, okay, a lot of the content I see at the moment, especially the creative content and storytelling content, it's lots is animated. We do not see that much reality capture anymore. So please tell me, is there a future for photorealistic VR?
Who is going to talk first?
Well, let's start with Valérie.
So sorry, can you state?
I say, sorry, Valérie.
Yeah. Can you repeat? I have some issues.
Yes. So I said, well, I've witnessed over the past couple of years maybe a little bit of pulling back from the interest and the abundance of photorealistic VR. Maybe it has to do with screen resolution, maybe with the capture techniques, lots of difficulties. Is there a future for photorealistic 360 VR?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, as we mentioned here, there is these issues of photorealistic. That's there is the hardware limitations that we had to face too, and also all the issues with capturing the content. There is also the capability to you know, even in non-CG content with real light field content to get it really photorealistic. The issues of manipulating huge volumes of data. But I think that the technology is moving forward, and we see some stakeholders bringing new efficient way to manipulate the data, to define the proper formats, to get a much higher quality with real-time rendering. So things are moving on these photorealistic aspects.
And what about the screens? Because well, as soon as something is photoreal, then the pixels. Well, this is from my perspective, that the pixels are well more sort of getting you out of the immersion. Like the screen of the headset is still the weakest link. Is that something that you also experience, or are there tricks for that? Is that the matter of time?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. There are some issues there, and tricks are really on bringing much more quality on a limited region of interest. There are lots of techniques that helps to cope with that and to try to bring the much higher quality that we have. And we see also lots of improvements in the hardware sides, and that would be something that we think we will have some advanced technologies to come.
And what's your take on that, Laurent?
Yeah, for me, there are two aspects, and one maybe we didn't talk about is how can we use those kind of technologies, and I mean also very accurate renderings to prepare things. And we were very fortunate to have this year 2 students who made a very amazing work on a virtual studio to design light on the cinema stage. And for that, a very realistic image was necessary to achieve a good simulation of what is going on in a studio, a cinema studio, and how can you tweak lights and design the lighting into the studio. And everything has been designed in virtual using Cosmo and Unreal. And I can assure you that it's really amazing to see that you can they have recreated the last Blade Runner scene, one scene of the Blade Runner film, 2049. And so then after you could change the lights, change the atmosphere, and it was really, really amazing. And I think to answer your question, it is also one possibility to use a very realistic rendering to prepare real things. I mean, to have a very accurate simulation, to have a very accurate image of what you intend to do afterwards. I really invite you to look for that project.
Okay, and what do you think, Gabriella? Yeah, do you experience also say this lull in photorealistic VR, or is it coming back? I also have a feeling that it's more well that new camera systems and better screen resolution is already making it pick up a bit. Have you always been in a reality capture, or what's your experience with that?
Well, to be honest, I've always preferred reality capture for the I mean, the main reason is that I like telling stories. I mean, I like to see people's faces when I consume my stories, let's say. And I'm also a very stubborn person, I must say. And for the last years, I've been, hearing in either talks or conferences like, no, we have to focus on this kind of VR or in that kind of technology. And I think a good story is independent of whether we use one technology or another. I mean, I think I'm sorry if I sound too passionate about this this topic. I'm a bit like an activist when it comes to storytelling, right? But for me, a good story is independent of whether it looks good or not, or it doesn't look good resolution-wise. I mean, I think the technology will follow a good story if we prepare a good story, if we create a good script, then technology would want to make this story better and better all the time. And I personally believe it's too soon to say, okay, no, this is not the way to go in immersive storytelling. This is the way to go. I mean, we are still, although the technology is getting mature, is getting there. I think it's not the time yet to discard possibilities. I think we're still allowed to dream. I think we're still allowed to experiment. And I think we also have to allow ourselves to make mistakes and not be like, in a good way, not being so critical about it and discard it like, this doesn't work. I'm not sure if I answered your question properly. But...
Yeah, okay, but when we talk, yeah. But if we then okay, talk about stories and good stories. What is a good story? You could argue that okay, we know of a couple of good stories that have survived. Say Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. Great dialogues, great stories. What are good stories for VR? Do we need to write new stories specifically for VR, 360 VR?
If we need, sorry.
Or can we just dwell on stories that have a certain space and time restriction, like we see a lot in theater, of course, time, place, and action, or should we make something new?
Well, I think a bit of both, to be honest. Now that you're mentioning Shakespeare, for example, and I hope I make the analogy correctly, but if we we don't judge how good Shakespeare is based on the kind of font that we use in the book, right? And this is a bit what I see in writing stories for VR or immersive tech in general.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we do judge how good Shakespeare is based upon the actors on the stage, how they pronounce the text, how they move around. So
true. I must apologize because I ignorantly just had the perspective of reading it on a book.
Yeah.
I must be honest with you. but absolutely. Tell me. Sorry for interrupting. It's just the connection is cutting a bit.
Could it be? I'm just trying to figure out. What is it? Is it a good story? Are stories like that suitable for VR or not? Because it's not interactive.
So I think. I mean, what's happening with the VR is it's allowed, and there are many different kinds of VR. So starting with 360 video, then you have stereoscopic 360 video, then you can capture volumetrically, then you can now start walking around. Maybe you want to have interaction with characters as well. So these are all in the end like different technologies that can be applied. And I think we have to really keep in mind. Think about the story first. I mean, of course, we have new possibilities now. Technology is allowing us to tell new stories. This is what's definitely going on. But we also have to be careful, in my opinion, to not just apply all the new technologies and expect that this is going to create new fantastic stories. No, we have to see what is the story that we want to tell. What technology do we need to apply for this, and be careful not to add other technology that has nothing to do with it with this story. Meaning that, let's say, for example, volumetric capturing. So I have the possibility to walk between actors in a scene. This also gives the possibility for the story to break, in my opinion, because if I have a person fixed in a location, I know that the characters can interact with me there and they can look at me. I'm bound to this. If I now go to the other corner of the room, what are the actors going to do? Are they following me? Do they need to be animated in a real time? Do they have to dynamically adapt to my actions? Or do they just ignore where I am and talk to the empty space that I've been before? You know, so I think it opens up a lot of new possibilities, all these new technologies, but we have to see where it really makes sense.
And as Axel said, I'm very sorry. I just want to add something about what Axel was saying, that this is a very important aspect that we have to keep in mind, that answering to your question, like if everything can be done in VR, I mean, this is the first exercise that we should make to ourselves, right? I mean, why do we want to make this in VR? Or why do we want to tell this story in an immersive way? I mean, can it be done otherwise? And definitely, and what the technology can do now, maybe a story cannot be reproduced right now with the tools that we have right now, but this doesn't mean that we won't be able to do it in the future. So it takes a bit of like a reality check every now and then to see what new tools we have available and what tools are becoming, let's say, not obsolete, but that could be enhanced with new tools.
Yes, and Laurent, would you like to expand a little bit on this? You have your background in the university or in the school.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and very hard question to answer. But in fact, we've got to disconnect the media and maybe the storyline and then reconnect it. I mean, a story, what is a story? Or before, what is a good story? And we can just ask ourselves, what is a story? A story is mastering space and time. So you've got to master space and time just to make something a story, to make it interesting. So now if we reconnect with the media, is it possible to master space and time in VR? This is a very tricky question. And in fact, we've got also to get rid of something which is virtual reality is reality and it is the same space and time. And I think we can play very much with space and we can play also very much with time. And we've got many examples in, I was referring to panoramas where you've got several times inside the same space. And you can also have that in virtual reality, meaning if you look on the right, you can have one space. And if you look on the left, you can have another space. It has been done with the film Pearl, which really plays that wherever you look, you can have a different time inside the same space. So it becomes a very good story because they do master space and time, and they do tell you a new kind of story. Because in virtual reality, you need really breakthrough stories. If you try to mimic what is done in cinema or maybe a bit less in theater, but mainly in cinema, you won't get something very interesting. But if you get into this new media and get all the possibilities that you can have, and the most of it is mastering time, you could have very, very good stories.
Yeah, and if I can go towards what is said by Laurent, yes, you mentioned what is a good story. The objective is to bring emotions to the user, to the person who is reading a book or viewing a movie. And now we want to make immersive stories. So if we say that they are immersive, there must be an interest, and in that case, that means that there is an interaction with the user, and that you have to bring. There is this idea of time and space. You are able to provide an additional dimension with the capability to get this story in a different point of view. But we need also to have more sensorial experiences. If you go to VR, if you move from the book to the movie, and then from the movie, the flat movie to the VR experience, is that you need to get more interaction and more sensorial experiences. So all about the embodiment technologies, how we put the, if you say that the people need to be inside this VR experience for this story, there must be some feedback, something for them. Otherwise, they will just get the story out of the VR experience.
I agree.
Yes, well, I think that's a very fair point, and the way we can interact and get that feedback is all about the interaction we have, and this really affects, I think, Laurent, like you also mentioned, the time experience in the story, mastering time, which I think is one of the most interesting and also most difficult things, I think, for VR, is our perception of time and the timing of developments of the story. A lot of my experience is that a lot of the times the delivery of information in VR experiences can be very, very slow, because it's because we are very fast thinkers. We are very used to very fast cuts, and on the other moment, we also need time to get adjusted to the VR space, and then other beautiful things can happen because you enter a different frame of mind. This mastering of time, and can you dwell a little bit more upon that, Laurent? Also with in regards to what Valérie just said, with the feedback we're getting, and then how does a story creator masters time? Can you control the storytelling time in VR, or is that something a creator needs to let go of?
Yeah, there are many solutions that have been done, but I'm not sure they are quite well. One is trying, this idea of point of interest, where you try to focus the attention of the audience on one point, and then you move to another one, and so on. So you follow those points of interest like lights, or like a cat who is just looking at a mouse, and it can be one solution. The other one is to blur everything which is not needed, but I think it's not a proper solution. The other one is maybe to say that everyone has got his own pace, in fact, and maybe the new way to write stories for virtual reality is to admit that you give the possibility to the audience to have, their own pace, their own rhythm, and maybe some are very slow and it takes time, and you say, okay, you can't see everything, but it's like in life, you can't see everything at the same times around you, but maybe we can offer you the possibility just to get your own pace, your own rhythm, and then you will see details. It's like in Tati's movie. If you do remember, Jacques Tati said, you can't see everything in my film, But the idea is maybe to share what you saw at a certain time with somebody else. And maybe it's a way also to reconnect with the collective experience, because we are all talking about solitary experiences. And so you can imagine if you are watching something alone, okay, it's quite hard to master time and quite hard to direct attention to somebody's in a specific direction. But if you try to have a solution to share, to have a real collective experience, then you can point out some details on one direction and say, hey, look at there, and so on. It's maybe a way, a new way. We've got to think of it, how to make those experiences more collective.
I believe that we still have, so we don't have to give up control over time or space. I think we still have a lot of tools that we are used from editing, film editing. I think so when we talk about VR right now, I talk about 360 video. So it's still, let's say, a linear experience when it comes to the film itself. Yet each viewer is going to have his own, let's say, focus. But in the end, this is not so different from, like, let's say, the classical film, because when you watch a movie, you talk with someone about it, you will always find some scenes that someone has seen and the other one has not, and you don't need a 360 video to have this happening. And when it comes to editing, so yeah, of course, right now we're all getting used to this new medium. So this is us creators and the audience as well. This means I think we're going through a similar process as classical film was going through. So there we had very long scenes in the beginning. We had wide shots, panoramas, and well, stuff to look at for a long time. But I see more and more, and we're also experimenting with different editing techniques, making faster edits on purpose to create a certain kind of anxiety maybe when you want it, you know. And yeah, I think all these tools we can still apply them. We have to apply them in a different way. We have to be careful about it. We have to think a lot of our audience and different audience, but in the end, not so much is changing, in my opinion.
Yes. Hey, is there any? Can you share any sort of technical developments that are coming in the next couple of years, or anything you as content creators or content or people that are developing tools for content creators, anything that you're really excited about and can't wait to get your hands on?
For me, the Quest and the Cosmos are really changing the deal. As now you can move into your space, you can change your space, you can inside something, you can interact with somebody, and really we have to invent now something completely new from that, because you can have this virtual augmented reality that you can play with, and for sure we know that the devices will be more powerful. The new processor is out now, and without the virus, I think maybe we should have them, the new devices, this summer or very soon. We will see now, but you know, moving in virtual reality or in augmented reality in a real space, touching for real objects, having the capability to change them, to change the aspects, it's really, really exciting. And everything we are trying to do, you know, I think it's going to be a new start from it.
And Valérie?
Yeah. So yes, the next trends in technology that are coming, for sure, from what you've seen before this morning around this mixing real video and virtual world. I think in virtual reality experiences today, it's mainly virtual content and CG content, and the real step forwards is to be able to mix with real video and really to get these capabilities to enrich the quality of what we create. The other key points are, as we said, the embodiment aspects, how to manage that, to manage to the user to understand why he's inside and what are the technologies that helps him to be part of the experience with the proper sensation, so that it's not a discomfort and it's really something seamless for him to be part or to be someone who's looking at this experience, but it's to be there is something we need to have something as a feedback to be naturally inside the content. And then the next big trends also are about using AI for helping the content creators to create this new experiments, to create also to be able to prepare and test in advance the possible interaction of the users. And IA will help us to bring tools to the creatives to really help to create this new content. So that are also big trends that we will certainly see to come and to help the users and the creatives to create these contents. And also related to tools to help the creations, there are lots of collaborative XR tools that's really will help the creatives to be in the proper environments, like virtual production environments, to really be able to engage in this new type of content and to sense what the final user will be able to sense at the end.
So do you imagine a space like this, this Laval virtual world, and with more realistic or maybe scanned 3D scanned avatars? This is also a question from Sharok from Iran, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, that's a clear point. I think today we all experience this funny and very good concept from Laval Virtual to make this conference happening in this way, with us being quite really in the conference, and we all experience the issues that we never see our proper face. So it can be very funny to have good avatars, but we miss something when you talk about photorealistic. We miss something about the person in front of us. So the future trend on digital human is really, really a key point, and will be really, really important to be able to get not an avatar, a generic avatar, but having you inside this environment, and with proper interactions that reflect your body. That's here also there is lots of trends and technologies that we're working on, this scanning, and not only scanning but also animation and bringing emotions to the characters. So that's really these interactions inside this kind of conference would be much more realistic than what we are today.
I totally agree. And there is one company in Nantes in which you can do your avatar within a minute, and it's rigged and ready to be animated. And I think for those kind of conference, it would have been very nice to have a real avatar to interact with people. And it's not only for conference issues, but you see, we are all locked down, and I've got students around the world, and it's now we've got to chat virtually, and it's kind of difficult. So we use, video chat. But I think that I really wonder if Valérie's technique, like her 3D screens and so on, could be used for video chatting. It would be very, very helpful to talk with the students with this kind of video feed, and maybe to think, because we don't know, maybe it's just one stand and the virus will disappear, but maybe not. So we will have really to work with it and to find solutions to be elsewhere virtually, but as as real as possible. And this question of embodiment is indeed very, very important to recreate a kind of contact, you know, everything that is like the body language and so on. What is the non-verbal communication that we must now use to communicate in those kind of environments?
Yeah, well, I agree. But I'm also thinking, because I'm a little bit in two minds here. On the one hand, I think, wow, it's amazing that we are here with this crowd, and I see all these people here, and I know they represent real people. So I think it's really, well, we're experiencing the future, and I'm super glad to be part of it. And at the same time, you know, it's probably a great job, but it also looks very clunky and very much like maybe what you would expect of a screenshot in the 1980s. And if we all know, especially in these times, you know, we're Zooming, we're hangouting, and every time you say, I can't hear you, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Oh wait, now I can hear you, but you froze. So is this world we're talking about this 10 years from now, or is this really with 5G, lots of these problems have been solved, and we can, well, do this a little bit more easy with not our voices breaking up so much? I don't know who's the best to answer this. Maybe Valérie?
Yes, for sure. Yes, networking technologies are key, and we are facing that during this conference too. Yes, with 5G, with edge computing, there are technologies that are raising that will help to reach more interactivity, to reduce latency, to help to have the proper bandwidth to do that. And that's also all new technologies that we find in cloud XR environments that the ecosystem is working on, that will surely help to deploy that. And the current situation show the interest for that, for sure.
So if I may follow up on also your question before, Benjamin, that what tech is the most interesting that is coming up right now? And for me, yeah. I would, and it's connected actually to what you're saying now. But for me, the most exciting thing that is happening right now is that VR as a technology is becoming so much more accessible, and it's so much more inclusive. It's really such a large part of the population is now able to join in conferences like this and follow what's going on. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect, but I argue that it's never going to be 100% perfect. It's only, even if you get the visuals right, if you get the audio right, well, then what about the haptic feedback and all this? So there will always be something missing to the, let's say, the real physical world. But in the end, I think maybe we don't need the whole thing, and we can work with these limitations. And right now, the most exciting step, as I said before, is that now so many people are actually able to participate in this new development. This is really the most exciting thing that's going on right now for me.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Was there anything, Gabriella, you wanted to add to this?
Yes, I just wanted to add some little comment about this level of like realism and interaction that we can have in virtual platforms. Like, I would just like to offer the perspective of someone very introverted. For me, for example, like the real world, let's say it's sometimes it's too many inputs, like too much information to be able to assimilate when I'm having a conversation with someone, when I have to put my thoughts into order. let's say, so I must say that yes, of course we can improve our virtual environments, but also as Axel said, like I don't believe, maybe I'm just from an already older generation that won't understand what the future holds, but for me it's actually playing a bit in my advantage in order to be able to have this layer that is not completely real, but it's also giving me the opportunity of having this let's say in a good way mistakes in order to perform a bit better. I'm not sure if I made myself clear with that.
Yes. No, I think it's very interesting. You know, the way we are also liberated a bit because of this virtual space. I've been meeting with the Laval team over the past couple of weeks in Virbella, preparing for Laval Virtual World, and then all of a sudden you see a colleague wearing a big hat to a team meeting. You know, something a person would not do in a normal setting, but you know, then you say, hey, okay, this is another expression of your personality that normally, yeah, you would not show, or you would not dare to show in a professional setting, but now in a virtual space, which is also a representation of ourselves, we're in a professional setting, and all of a sudden you're wearing a big hat. So it's also, you know, we get to understand or know each other in different ways. Well, yes, you may jump. Very nice. So, is there any question from the audience? I would like to open it a little bit more, and then otherwise we can. We thank our panelists and speakers for today. I really enjoyed this well, hybrid and conversation that we touched upon a lot of things. Well, I have here one more question. Let's is recreating the physical world the way to go, or is there maybe a way to go beyond? What
I can put a word, because for architects this is a very interesting question, and it always has been a very interesting question, saying that is a virtual world is a mimic of our world, actual world? Can we enhance the world we have? You say that virtual museum, they didn't work when you referred of my age, and it's not that good in fact, but it's true. But 20 years ago when we started, we had lots of projects about virtual museums, and the idea was to mimic what was in reality, and in fact it didn't work at all. And so we were wondering why, and in fact there's also this video game culture where in video games you can do lots of things, and in fact you can transgress reality. And for me, transgression and virtual reality are very much linked. They are so much in common. Transgression is at the origin going into the water, crossing the water. So virtual reality is also being emerged. So you've got the same vocabulary to say that you are diving into a new world, but the new world can be really different. And in the sea, you can swim, you just can forget what is up, what is down, what is right or left, and so on. And I think we can go to this kind of experiences in a virtual world. You're free to do it. So maybe we don't have enough freedom to invent new worlds where you can maybe have walls done out of water, so that instead of having doors, you can just swim through your wall, climb to another step, and go elsewhere, and so on. You can do whatever you want. So in fact, it's too much freedom, and it's very hard to handle so much freedom. This is very interesting to see that we are a bit lost with all that freedom that is at disposal into virtual reality.
Yes, well, but Laurent, and maybe we can conclude with this, we're a little bit lost, yes, but at this moment, the whole world is a little bit lost. And we know we come to a stage, and I think that's why I'm also so happy to be in this crowd, because we as VR people, we've been attracted to virtual reality because it gave us the opportunity to think of a new world, a virtual world, which has a place in our physical world. And at this moment in time, when life is changing in front of our eyes, and it's just the start of it, and we are being forced to rethink our world, to rethink the way we work and live and socialize together. And we as VR people, we've been doing this for some time, and we're experiencing here that immersive technologies are really a part of the answer on how we can reshape our world, the future world our children and our grandchildren will know. And yesterday I made a joke saying our children and our grandchildren will refer to this as not the year 2020, but the year 1 AC after Corona. But there's probably some truth in this as well. I want to wrap it up here. I want to thank you, Valérie, Laurent, Gabriella, Alex, for sharing your thoughts, for giving great presentations about your work. We will keep following you. The people in the audience, please go up to them if you have more questions. They're more than willing to talk to you. Thank you, audience. You've been a great audience, the best virtual audience I've ever seen. Let me make one. Let me do a selfie. Okay, I'm gonna stand here. Stand here. Wait. Now I'm gonna view my avatar. If you all wave, and then I make a selfie. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, and see you around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Thank you so much. Thank you and all the speakers. So this is done for the morning conferences. This afternoon it starts again at 3 o'clock, if I'm right. 3:20. 3:20 there'll be a new range of conferences. The topic this afternoon will be on education and training. And that will be Daniel and Laurel, who will be in charge, who are working at Educators in VR, would be in charge of all the conferences. So please see each other at 3:20, as I said earlier. Thank you.
Hey, VRish link meeting.
Yes, that was amazing.
Salut, vous m'entendez?
That's so cool. Hey, we have to take a selfie.
Yes, Benjamin, I can hear you.
Oh.